Today, November 9th, Mercury stations retrograde at 22 degrees Sagittarius. And if you've been wondering why, despite everything flowing beautifully lately with this Grand Trine energy, you keep getting this quiet internal pull to pause, to go back, to sit with something a little longer, this is why. Hi friends, welcome back to the Celestial Lab. I'm Elizabeth Knowles, Evolutionary Astrologer. Make sure you're subscribed to the Celestial Lab so you don't miss any of the videos in this mini-series following up on the Grand Trine. This one is on Mercury Retrograde, and then next we have the new moon, and then we have the Venus in Scorpio wave. Mercury Retrograde has the worst reputation in astrology. Tech fails, flights canceled, exes resurface, communication implodes. But that chaos isn't Mercury Retrograde. That's what happens when you fight Mercury Retrograde, when you try to push forward while the universe is asking you to integrate. Because Mercury Retrograde isn't cosmic punishment, friends. It's cosmic integration time. Think about it. In late October, you downloaded an entirely new understanding of yourself. Conversations went deeper than they've gone in years. Insights arrived that you couldn't unsee. You glimpsed truths about patterns you've been living, relationships you've been navigating, power you've been avoiding. Scorpio season cracked something open in all of us. But here's what nobody tells you about profound insight. Your mind can grasp it instantly, but your body needs time to hold it. You can understand something intellectually without that understanding changing how you actually show up in your life. There's a gap between knowing and being, between insight and embodiment, between I see it and I am it. That's the gap Mercury Retrograde closes. From today through November 29th, Mercury is giving you integration time. It's happening inside a Grand Water Trine, Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces, forming a perfect triangle of flow, protection, and depth. The psychological integration you've been needing has structural support through this trine. Look for my full video on that. Most Mercury retrogrades feel like swimming upstream. This one feels like floating downstream while the current does the work. On November 18th, Mercury backs into Scorpio for one final pass through October's territory. Not because you failed at going through it the first time, and not because you missed something, but because you're ready now to claim what you could only glimpse the first time around. If insights have been arriving faster than you can process them, and October conversations keep echoing in your mind, and if you understand something but haven't quite embodied it yet, this retrograde creates the space for that total integration. Let's talk a little bit about the mythology of Mercury as a soul guide. I've mentioned before that Mercury, who is Hermes to the Greeks, is the Psychopomp, the guide of souls between worlds. And Mercury is unique among the gods because he's the only one who can travel freely between all three realms, the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. When Mercury is in Scorpio, he's in underworld territory, the realm of psychological depths, hidden truths, what lives beneath the surface. And when Mercury is retrograde, he's not pushing forward into new territory. He's returning to ground already covered, but this time as a retrieval mission. He's going back for something essential that you weren't ready to carry the first time through. Think of watching a film twice. First viewing, you follow the plot, you react, you're surprised by the twists. Second viewing, you catch the foreshadowing, the subtle character reveals, the details that only make sense now that you know how it ends. Same movie, completely different experience. That's Mercury retrograde. Same territory, deeper seeing. The word retrograde comes from the Latin retrogradus, retro, backward, and gradi, to step. Stepping backward, literally, but this isn't regression. This is review, returning with consciousness. And because this is happening within the Grand Water Trine, the return is supported. It's graceful and flowing. The universe is literally holding space for that integration. Let's talk about some words that reveal. 3 words illuminate what's actually happening. First, the word integrate, from the Latin integrare, to make whole, from integer, meaning whole or complete. The prefix into, intangere, to touch. Integration means touching something fully, enough that it becomes part of your wholeness. Information becomes wisdom when you integrate it. Understanding becomes embodiment when you integrate it. The second word is digest, from the Latin digestus, to break down or to assimilate. Your body digests food, breaking it down so it can nourish you. Your psyche digests experience the same way. You can't rush digestion. You can't force it. Mercury retrograde is digestive time for consciousness itself. And the third word is review, from the Latin revidere, again, and videre, to see again, not meaningless repetition or going backward, seeing with new eyes what you saw before. The second look that catches what the first look missed. This entire retrograde is about these 3 processes: integrating what October revealed, digesting what October brought, reviewing what October showed you, but with November's wisdom. And this process comes in 3 acts. Act 1 is the hesitation, from November 9th, starting today. Mercury's at 22 degrees of Sagittarius, trying to move into new philosophical territory, new beliefs, new understanding. That's Sagittarius. But something makes it pause. It's like standing at your door, hand on the doorknob, bags packed for a journey, and suddenly knowing, wait, I forgot something essential. I'm not actually ready to leave yet. What did Mercury forget? The full integration of what Scorpio showed you in October. You glimpsed the depths, but you haven't fully processed what you saw down there. You had the insight, but you haven't become that insight yet. And then we have Act 2, the return. This is from November 18th through the 22nd. Mercury officially re-enters Scorpio. This is the journey, the hero's journey, when the protagonist returns to where it all began. Not because they failed, but because there's something they can only retrieve now that they've changed. You return to October's territory, the conversations, the realizations, the depths you touched, but you're different now. You can see what you couldn't see before. You can hear what you weren't ready to hear then. You can hold what would have overwhelmed you weeks ago. This is the heart of the retrograde. This is where the real work happens. From November 18th through the 22nd, that's deep integration time. The veils are thin and the unconscious is accessible. Your dreams become vivid, symbolic, and teaching. Therapy sessions go to unexpected depths. The conversations you've been avoiding suddenly feel possible. And then we have Act 3, the peak, November 20th. Right in the middle of the return, we get the new moon in Scorpio, conjunct Mercury retrograde at 29 degrees. This is the climax. This is where everything converges. The new beginning emerges from the integration. You can only birth something new after you've fully digested the old. I'll explore this new moon deeply in the next video because it deserves its own focus. And it's the most potent moment of the entire retrograde and of the entire Grand Water Trine energy. Then on November 22nd, Mercury completes its trine to Saturn one final time. And Saturn asks, have you learned the lesson? Do you truly understand what needs to change? If you're honest, Saturn rewards you with structure, staying power, and foundation. If something you committed to in October isn't actually working, this is when you release it, or you recommit with radical clarity. Then we have the emergence. This is November 29th through December 15th. Mercury stations direct on November 29th, still in Scorpio. You're awake now, but not ready to leap out of bed just yet. Give yourself a few days to stabilize. By December 15th, Mercury finally exits Scorpio and enters Sagittarius for real this time. Now you're ready. You've seen it, processed it, integrated it, embodied it. Now you can build from it. Now forward motion serves you. So let's talk about what becomes available with this Mercury retrograde, since it's not a typical Mercury retrograde. It's happening inside the protective container of the Grand Water Trine. Again, Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces, all holding space for Mercury's underworld journey. And here's what opens up. First, psychological integration. The insights you had in late October about yourself, about patterns you've been living, about family dynamics or intimate relationships, those insights move from I understand this intellectually to I know this in my bones. You don't just think differently, you become different. It's the difference between reading about swimming and actually getting in the water. October was the book, November is the ocean. Second, unfinished conversations. People from your past may reappear, not randomly, but purposefully. Mercury retrograde brings people back for completion. Sometimes that means reconciliation. Sometimes it means finally saying what needed to be said. Sometimes it just means internal closure, understanding finally why things unfolded the way that they did. If someone's name keeps surfacing, if you keep replaying a conversation from October, if you dream about someone from years ago, that's Mercury's invitation. This has already been happening to me quite a bit. Third, hidden information starts to surface. Things you missed the first time through become visible. An email you overlooked, a detail that seemed insignificant but holds the key, a pattern you couldn't see because you were inside it. Mercury retrograde creates the distance that allows for perspective. It's like those magic eye pictures. You stare and see nothing, and then you relax your focus, and suddenly the 3D image just pops out. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Next, we have creative revision. If you wrote, painted, composed, or created anything in October related to depth, shadow, transformation, or intimacy, go back to that now. The work isn't finished. There's more to be mined from those creative processes. The revision will be better than the original because you understand more deeply now what you were trying to express then. You've lived into it more fully. Therapy breakthroughs. If you're in therapy, bring back themes from October. Return to conversations you thought were complete. There are some more layers you couldn't access the first time because you weren't ready, because the timing wasn't right, because the understanding had not matured yet. Your therapist will likely notice you're processing at a different level now. Dream work intensifies. Your dreams during this retrograde carry a lot of weight. They're showing you what your conscious mind can't quite articulate yet. Pay attention. Write them down immediately upon waking, before your coffee, before you're checking your phone. The symbols might be cryptic now, but they'll make sense days or weeks later. Your unconscious is speaking. Listen, friends. Financial review. Scorpio rules shared resources, investments, debts, inheritances, financial entanglements. Mercury retrograde here says, review your financial partnerships. Are you in equitable exchanges? Are you undervaluing your contributions? Are you carrying debt that needs to be addressed or renegotiated? This is review time, not action time. But the review sets up the action for later. Intimacy deepens through honesty. Conversations you had with intimate partners in October may need to be revisited. Not because they didn't work, but because you understand more now. You can speak from a deeper place. Simply saying, I need to say something more about what we discussed in October can open powerful doors. Trust that. How do we work with this energy? Here are some do's and don'ts. First, the do's. Do review your October journal. If you journal, read your entries from late October through early November. What themes emerge? What were you processing? What insights landed? Now write the next chapter. What have you learned since then? How has your understanding deepened? What can you see now that you couldn't see when you were writing that? Reconnect consciously. If someone from your past keeps coming to mind, that's Mercury's invitation. Reach out if it feels right, but be clear about your intention. Are you seeking closure, reconciliation, understanding? Don't reopen wounds unconsciously. Approach like an archaeologist returning to a dig site. You're not disturbing graves. You're carefully excavating something of value that was buried. Revise creative work. Go back to October's writing, art, music. Don't start new projects. Deepen the ones you've already started. You'll be amazed at what you can achieve now that you have access to those deeper truths. Review bank statements, investment accounts, debts. Don't make major financial decisions yet. Just review. Notice what's working and what isn't. Set intentions for changes you'll make after the retrograde completes. Keep a dream journal. Keep a notebook by your bed. Write dreams down immediately. Before scrolling in the morning and having your morning coffee, your unconscious is especially articulate right now. Capture it. And practice patience. Mercury retrograde asks you to slow down. If technology fails, if plans shift, if communication gets muddled, just breathe. The delay is often protection. Something isn't ready yet. Trust that pause. Value internal work over external action. This is not the time to launch, announce, or initiate. This is the time to process, integrate, and understand. External action comes after internal work is complete. You're planting seeds underground right now. They'll sprout after the retrograde ends. And here are some don'ts, friends. Don't rehash without growth. There's a difference between returning for integration and obsessing without insight. If you find yourself going over the same ground compulsively without new understanding, that's shadow retrograde. Seek support, therapy, trusted friends, journaling to move that stuck energy out. It's the difference between a spiral staircase, you're covering the same territory but going deeper, and a hamster wheel. A hamster wheel, you're just circling. The next don't is don't reopen toxic relationships. Just because someone from your past appears doesn't mean you need to re-engage. Mercury retrograde brings people back for closure, not necessarily reconnection. Trust your discernment. If it's not healthy for you to reconnect, you can have the conversation internally. Write a letter and don't send it. Speak to their photo. Complete it energetically without actual contact. Don't sign contracts. If you must sign something during retrograde, triple check every detail. Seriously, read the fine print. Have someone else review it. Better yet, just wait until after November 29th if possible. Don't start major projects right now. New beginnings are for after the retrograde. Use this time to plan, prepare, and imagine, but don't launch. You're in the creative underground right now. Stay in that creative underground space doing that integration and revision and digesting until it's time to emerge. Don't assume that communication is clear. Verify everything. Text doesn't convey tone. Emails get misread. Calls drop. Make sure what's been communicated has been verified. Over-communicate rather than under-communicate. Don't rush. The universe is asking you to pause. Honor that. Trying to force forward motion during a retrograde is like swimming against a riptide. You're going to exhaust yourself and get nowhere. Let the current take you back to shore, then swim parallel until the water calms, and then move forward. Here's some brief sign-by-sign guidance for the retrograde. For Aries, review intimate conversations and financial partnerships from October. What did you learn about sharing power, resources, and vulnerability? Integration happens through revisiting psychological insights about family patterns. For Taurus, Revisit relationship conversations from October. What understanding about partnership needs to deepen? Past partners or important relationship themes may resurface for completion. For Gemini, review work patterns and health routines from October. What insights about daily life and self-care need integration? Your communication style itself is transforming. Notice how you speak differently now. For Cancer, revisit creative projects and romantic conversations from October. What did you learn about joy, play, and self-expression? Creative work from that time needs revision. It's not finished yet. For Leo, review family conversations and home situations from October. What understanding about your roots or emotional foundation needs to deepen? Childhood patterns are becoming visible. Virgo, revisit important conversations from October. With siblings, neighbors, about learning. What needs to be said again with more depth? Your mind is integrating psychological complexity. For Libra, review financial decisions and self-worth revelations from October. What understanding about your value needs to deepen? Money conversations may need revisiting with greater honesty. For Scorpio, this is deeply personal. Mercury retrograde in your sign. You're integrating insights about your identity, your power, your transformation. Who you're becoming needs time to settle before you announce it. For Sagittarius, review spiritual insights and unconscious patterns from October. Dreams are especially significant. Past psychological material is surfacing for final release before Mercury enters your sign for real. For Capricorn, revisit conversations about community, friendship, long-term vision from late October. Who are your real allies? What collaboration needs deeper discussion before moving forward? For Aquarius, review insights from October around work and career. What understanding about your public role or professional path needs integration? Your reputation is transforming. Let it settle before taking new action. For Pisces, revisit beliefs, philosophies, and teaching from October. What understanding about meaning-making needs to deepen? Travel plans or educational pursuits may need reconsideration. Mercury retrograde is the bridge between knowing and being. It's the pause that lets the seed germinate. You planted seeds of understanding in October. Now they're growing roots beneath the surface. You can't see the growth, but it's happening. And when Mercury stations direct on November 29th, the sprout breaks through the soil. The Grand Water Trine holds this process. Jupiter says, have faith in the process. Saturn says, I'm giving this structure and staying power. And Neptune says, this goes deeper than logic. This is soul-level transformation. The integration you're doing now will change you permanently. Not because you're forcing change, but because you're allowing understanding to alchemize you from the inside out. You're not learning a new language in Mercury retrograde. You're becoming fluent in a language you already learned the basics of. You're moving from translation to native thinking. So I ask you to trust the retrograde, trust this return. Mercury retrograde in Scorpio says you don't need to find new depths. You need to fully explore the depths you've already touched. You don't need more insights. You need to embody the insights you already have. You don't need more conversations. You need to integrate the conversations you've already had. This isn't about accumulation. This is about digestion. It's not about gathering. It's about becoming. For the next 2 weeks, give yourself permission to be in that pause, to return to October's themes with November's wisdom, and see again what you saw before, but this time with eyes that understand more. Mercury, Hermes, the Psychopomp, is guiding you back into the underworld, not because you missed something, but because you're ready now to claim what you've glimpsed before. When you emerge from the retrograde energy on November 29th, you won't just know things, you'll be different. The understanding will be woven into your cells. The insight will show up in your instincts. The conversation will live in your body, not just your memory. This is the gift of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio within the Grand Water Trine. Effortless integration, graceful digestion, supported transformation. Trust the return, honor the review, allow that integration. Okay, friends, subscribe to the Celestial Lab, and until the next time, stay open, stay grounded, and keep evolving consciously.